Gaza is burning and the world is watching in silence. Erdogan has slammed the international community, calling out the shocking truth. Remaining silent is the same as being complicit in this unfolding massacre. The cries of innocent civilians echo across borders, while political leaders hesitate. But what would happen if the world finally spoke up? Stay tuned, because today we uncover the chilling reality behind the Gaza war and why silence is the deadliest weapon of all. Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we are diving deep into one of the most shocking and emotionally charged crises of our time, the war in Gaza, and the fierce words of Turkey's President Recep Tayyip Erdogan. His recent statement has shaken the global community. Everyone keeping silent is an accomplice to this barbarity. These are not just political words. They are a call to action, a moral indictment of those who watch atrocities unfold without raising their voice. The Gaza conflict has been one of the most protracted and devastating in recent history, claiming thousands of lives, displacing countless families, and leaving an entire region in turmoil. Erdogan's statement reflects a growing frustration with the international community's hesitation, highlighting how silence can empower violence and prolong suffering. In this video, we will explore the historical roots of the Gaza conflict, the human toll of war, Erdogan's political motivations, the role of global powers, and the moral dilemmas facing the world today. By the end, you will understand why speaking up or remaining silent has consequences far beyond borders. The Gaza Strip has been a focal point of conflict for decades, shaped by territorial disputes, political tensions, and humanitarian crises. Since Israel's withdrawal in 2005, Gaza has been governed by Hamas, a group considered a terrorist organization by many countries, including the United States and the European Union. Israel and Hamas have fought multiple wars since then, each one leaving devastation behind. Civilians often bear the heaviest burden, caught between rocket fire, airstrikes, and internal political struggles. The densely populated region makes it nearly impossible to shield innocent people from harm, and the ongoing blockade has created dire humanitarian conditions, including food shortages, lack of medical supplies, and collapsed infrastructure. International organizations frequently step in to provide aid, but political tensions often hinder their efforts. Erdogan's comments come in response to this complex reality, where global silence is seen as indirect complicity. He argues that the failure to hold perpetrators accountable or pressure leaders into protecting civilians allows violence to persist. Understanding the history of Gaza is essential to grasp the gravity of Erdogan's statement and why the world must pay attention. Erdogan's recent statement carries immense weight. Everyone keeping silent is an accomplice to this barbarity. These words are not mere rhetoric. They reflect a moral judgment aimed at governments, international organizations, and world leaders who have failed to take decisive action. In the context of Gaza, silence often translates into inaction, blocked resolutions, delayed humanitarian aid, and muted condemnation of attacks on civilians. Erdogan emphasizes that remaining neutral or indifferent in the face of such violence indirectly supports the aggressor. The emotional charge of his statement resonates globally, especially with those who have long criticized international institutions for inefficiency or political bias. It also challenges ordinary citizens worldwide to consider their role is ignoring injustice a form of consent. Erdogan's message has ignited debates across media platforms, social networks, and political forums, forcing governments to clarify their positions or face criticism. By framing silence as complicity, he shifts the narrative from political strategy to moral responsibility, making it clear that global inaction has real human consequences, particularly for the innocent people trapped in Gaza's conflict zone. The true cost of war is measured not in political statements, but in human lives. In Gaza, thousands of civilians, including women and children, have lost their lives or been injured in repeated airstrikes and ground assaults. Families are displaced, homes reduced to rubble, and communities torn apart. Hospitals and schools are overwhelmed, struggling to cope with the influx of wounded civilians while lacking basic medical supplies. The psychological impact is equally devastating. Children grow up amidst trauma, fear, and uncertainty, often witnessing violence firsthand. Erdogan's warning highlights that silence allows these horrors to continue unchallenged. Social media is filled with heart-wrenching images of families fleeing destruction, and personal testimonies reveal stories of resilience and despair. International observers often describe Gaza as one of the most densely populated and vulnerable conflict zones in the world, where civilians are constantly exposed to danger. Each day of inaction reinforces the idea that silence equals complicity. By humanizing the crisis, Erdogan's words demand a response not only from governments, but also from the global conscience, urging immediate attention to prevent further loss of innocent lives. While Erdogan's statement has captured headlines, reactions from other world leaders have been mixed. Some countries have expressed support, condemning violence and calling for immediate ceasefires. Others remain cautious, emphasizing diplomatic solutions or avoiding direct criticism of Israel. International organizations like the United Nations have issued statements condemning civilian casualties, but often fall short of implementing tangible measures. Social media campaigns have amplified voices demanding action, while grassroots movements have organized protests worldwide. Erdogan's message has sparked a debate about moral responsibility. Should countries prioritize political alliances, economic interests, or human rights? Many argue that silence from powerful nations emboldens aggressors, while timely intervention could pressure leaders to negotiate peace. However, geopolitical complexities, including alliances with the United States and regional considerations, often hinder decisive action. The contrasting reactions underline Erdogan's main point. While some speak up, the world is far from a unified response, leaving civilians in Gaza to bear the consequences of international indecision. Erdogan's outspoken stance is not only about humanitarian concern, it also carries significant political motivations. Domestically, he appeals to his base by positioning himself as a defender of Palestinian rights and a global moral leader. Internationally, he challenges Western powers for perceived inaction, calling out hypocrisy and urging accountability. His comments strengthen Turkey's influence in Middle Eastern politics, signaling that Ankara is willing to confront major global players on moral and strategic grounds. Erdogan's rhetoric also highlights Turkey's role as a regional power broker, seeking to mediate, influence, or pressure parties involved in the Gaza conflict. By framing silence as complicity, he elevates Turkey's position as a moral authority, forcing other nations to consider their actions or inaction. Critics argue that his statement is strategically timed to consolidate political support, but supporters insist it reflects genuine outrage at ongoing atrocities. Regardless of political calculus, Erdogan's words have succeeded in amplifying global attention, reigniting debates on responsibility, morality, and the urgent need to address the suffering in Gaza before it escalates further. The United States and its Western allies play a pivotal role in the Gaza conflict. Historically, the U.S. has provided military aid and political support to Israel, often shielding it from international criticism. European nations have been more divided, with some advocating for human rights while balancing strategic interests. Erdogan's criticism directly targets this perceived silence, accusing Western powers of turning a blind eye to civilian suffering. The political stakes are high. Supporting Gaza publicly could strain alliances, while inaction risks global condemnation for ignoring human rights violations. Turkey's call to action challenges this delicate balance, pressuring the US and European nations to reconsider their diplomatic stance. Social media amplifies this tension, with citizens worldwide questioning why governments remain passive. Erdogan's statement reframes the debate. It is no longer solely a question of politics, but of moral responsibility. The world is being asked to consider whether strategic alliances justify ignoring suffering or whether standing up for innocent lives should take precedence over geopolitical convenience. Media coverage has been a battleground in the Gaza war. While some outlets highlight the humanitarian crisis, others focus on political narratives, framing the conflict in terms of security, terrorism, or diplomatic strategy. Erdogan's statement challenges media organizations to confront the moral dimension of their reporting. Social media platforms have amplified personal stories and shocking images, influencing public opinion globally. Grassroots campaigns and online petitions have surged, demanding accountability and international intervention. Public opinion has become a powerful force, pressuring governments to act and influencing policy decisions. Erdogan's words resonate with millions who feel frustrated by the perceived inaction of world leaders. By framing silence as complicity, he mobilizes global awareness and demands moral clarity. In a world where media shapes perception, Erdogan's message forces both citizens and policymakers to confront uncomfortable truths about the human cost of conflict, challenging the global community to choose between indifference and action. Silence in the face of war is not neutral. It has consequences. Erdogan's warning underscores that ignoring atrocities allows violence to persist, creating a cycle of suffering for civilians trapped in conflict zones. Moral responsibility extends beyond governments to international organizations, media, and even ordinary citizens. Each unspoken condemnation, delayed resolution, or inaction contributes to prolonging the crisis. For the people of Gaza, silence from the global community can feel like betrayal, reinforcing hopelessness and despair. Erdogan's framing is chilling yet motivating. Complicity is not always active participation. It can be passive yet deadly. By calling out silence, he challenges the world to act decisively, to hold leaders accountable, and to prioritize humanitarian intervention over political convenience. This moral lens reframes the Gaza conflict not only as a political struggle, but as a test of global conscience. In action, Erdogan warns, is a choice, and it is one that has grave, irreversible consequences for the innocent. Erdogan's words serve as a stark reminder that silence in the face of human suffering is deadly. The Gaza conflict continues to devastate lives, with civilians trapped in a cycle of violence, fear, and displacement. International leaders, organizations, and citizens are confronted with a choice: speak up or remain complicit. Erdogan's statement has reignited global debate, forcing the world to confront uncomfortable truths about morality, responsibility, and accountability. The crisis is far from over, and the urgency to act has never been greater. By amplifying awareness, mobilizing public opinion, and pressuring governments to take ethical stances, the international community can make a difference. But the clock is ticking, and silence has its consequences. If you found this analysis eye-opening, make sure to subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss our deep dives into global conflicts. Share your thoughts in the comments. Do you believe the world is complicit in Gaza's suffering, or can action still prevent further devastation? Let's discuss and raise awareness together.